everyone, it's Kylie from PaperDaisyJournals. I would like to introduce you to Dominique. She is a lace-covered decorated journal, and I have used a vintage brooch as the feature on the cover, and I have attached a shabby vintage Suffolk puff or yo-yo with the brooch. The Dominique's cover is layers of tea-stained modern eyelet and vintage lace and antique lace, and sort of just bits and pieces. I did machine stitch rather than hand stitch. I machine stitched rows across the cover to sort of catch most of the lace, but there is some movement which is intentional, because I wanted to focus the hand stitching on these gold hearts. The thread is vintage gold thread from my friend Pamela in Germany, and I have a lot still, but I use it sparingly because it's one of those things I don't want to run out of. A little tricky to actually use because it does twist, so I think more modern technology makes that easier. But I have used a chain stitch, I think it's called a chain stitch, to create a heart as the part of the focus. I do have a piece of antique lace, bobbin lace here with a little vintage velvet flower that I've stuck on, and I have a little mini heart down the bottom. Now, I'm very bad at freehand with anything, so I did, the way that I created the cover was to lay the lace, and I did pin it, and then sewed across. I did do the border, so I do a border for the front, the spine and the back, but I hand stitched this before I put the inside cover on. And the way that I got the actual heart shape was to draw a pattern on the back of the cover or on the inside. So I was sort of following that as a bit of a reverse pattern in a way. You can see, even though it was balanced and even on the other side, it's wonky on the front. So even with a template, I still get things just end up wonky, but that's part of my style, I guess. It's definitely handmade when things are wonky. The smaller heart worked out to be much neater. I did do that first, and that second I probably should have done that in reverse for practice. But on the spine I decided to add 3 more little hearts. These are the chains, the lazy daisy or the chain stitch, and this one I just did a normal straight stitch with double the thread. So I doubled the thread over so that you could see it, because I love to have a decorated spine sitting on a shelf. And on the back I didn't really intend to do anything, but I feel sometimes the back of a journal, if can be left, you know, it's still part of the journal, so it deserves a little bit of zhuzhing, a bit of decorating. So I did the heart at the back there. I have actually, this is probably a common binding technique, but I have just done this a certain way, which I will explain inside the journal, because I didn't want to overlap the hearts, but I had intended to do a binding where you don't see it on the outside of the spine. I've actually forgotten the technical term for that because that happens every video. So at least we've got that out of the way. But I will sort of I didn't end up doing that. Unfortunately, I stuck the inside cover on before I had a chance to do that. So I had to alter my binding technique. So this is technically maybe a new technique. I don't think so, but I will explain it as best I can. And Dominique kind of just evolved and appeared. I will do more process videos, but sometimes I just have to go with that creative flow. And, you know, there's inspiration to be had from what I'm showing you anyway. And if you craft it, you tend to work it out. So on the inside cover, I have a lace pocket that I did all the way through. And that is an original piece of French ephemera just tucked in there to create a layered look. I have used printable kits that are available in my shop, and I will link those in the description below for you to have a look at. And this is one of my absolute favorite original antique postcards. I think this woman is absolutely stunning. And yes, so she is part of one of my kits. I think it's the Antique Butterfly kit. And I have just added a little cluster at the top. I've backed it with vintage schoolbook page, and I have added a couple of layers in a little vintage fabric button. They're my latest hoarding obsession. And if I've used one, you know I've got lots. Here, this was actually meant to be wrapping around a different signature, and I just had it fully opened out because I thought, you know, sometimes it's nice to have a doily or something as something different. And then I decided to add a button, and I thought, oh, that would be a nice opening scene because I do like the drama of opening a journal. So that's how that sort of switched around. I do a lot of decorating before I sew in my signatures, purely because I do a lot of machine stitching, which is easier when the pages are separate. This is pieces of tea and coffee stained lace just zigzagged onto paper. I have completely forgotten the Etsy shop that I purchased this from because it was a while ago. If I can find it, I will link it in the description, but if I can't, then it's something that I think you could easily make yourself. And this is from my Spring Gardeners kit, which is sort of greens and yellows with butterflies. So the Antique Butterfly kit and the Spring Gardeners kit are the two main kits that I've used. I have a little rusted clip here at the top, which I think is just absolutely adorable. And then I've just made some ephemera out of antique music book pages, the vintage school book, some Tim Holtz washi. This is from an antique almanac, which is a type of diary from France. That's from the Printable kit, and some lace. This I did have, yes, I have a tag that floats around just to demonstrate. This is a little tuck spot, a little delicate tuck spot. And I've just pinned that on just to stick out from the side of the page. Sorry to reach across. Because I love that layered look. A little bit of lace glued on, so I'm sort of trying not to machine sew everything, but I just like how that sort of peeks through the lace at the top. Another original French receipt that I've tucked in that can be used for journaling space on the back. This is from that same shop. It's layered antique French ledgers and coffee and tea stained paper, which I think is fantastic. And it was in a long strip. So it's kind of like a fabric snippet roll, if that makes sense, which is pretty cool. I may start doing like tutorials with ideas that sort of come out of making a journal, even though it has all been done before, but So it won't be called a tutorial. It would just be like a craft with me. But I don't ever know where I've got the idea from. I don't absorb that part of it. And I'm sure I come up with ideas myself, but someone else has done it. So I don't want to say that it's my idea, because it's not. even though it was my thought. But I'm just digging myself a hole there. So anyway, moving on. This is from my new embroidery kit. So that's one of the pages from there. I do tear the edges and I ink them just to give a little bit of aging to it. And I have switched from the, oops, sorry for the noise, the tea stained distress ink to the antique linen, which is not as dark or brown. So that's sort of the look that you get, which is a little lighter. So that is from, I think it's my Ledger and Lace kit. So I've used, I didn't realize how many kits I used, a few. Beautiful antique eyelet, and that is naturally stained with age. A little cluster at the top here, so I'll just lift this up so you can see. So a little vintage bead with one of Tim Holtz's little safety pins, and inside I have a library card, and I've just put some wallpaper on that, and I've put this on the edge so it's easier to get out, but there's journaling space on the back. There's not a great deal of journaling space in this journal. Oh, I won't say that. There's maybe less than what I would normally allow, because I just kept adding things to it. That's that's the big butterfly in my antique butterfly kit, and that is an original document from France, and I've just used that as a little tuck spot. Now, in terms of the binding, so I have from the bottom, I think it was 6.5 centimeters, 6.5 centimeters, I put a hole. Then 1.5 centimeters from that, I put another hole. I can't convert that easily to inches. So I do apologize. And there's about a 5 centimeter, or that, I know that's a 2-inch gap between the two sets of holes. So there's a set of holes there and a set of holes there. I have threaded it very similarly to a 3 and 5 hole pamphlet stitch. So I went through the top hole, came back into this next hole, skipped down to the bottom, went in through the top hole at the bottom, and then came back in through the very bottom hole, and then I tucked them underneath and tied them in the middle. But really that was more just because I couldn't get enough tension with holding the knot with my finger and tying the double knot and then tying the bow. So here you can see where it comes out on this side, and that's so I didn't interfere with the decorations on the spine. That only happened because of the decorations. That's not the normal way that I bind a journal. It was definitely a made-up thing, which tends to happen when I make journals. There's a lot of random things that happen. Yes, so if you can work out that, then, you know, I'm not going to promise anything, so I'm just going to keep going. This is a Tim Holtz 3D embossing folder, just on really nice paper, and I've just slipped that in there to increase the journaling space. That's a piece of ephemera from the Spring Gardeners kit. Now on the back I do have a background pages, antique pages kit, and I was double-siding my ephemera and some pages with a tea-stained image, and I thought I would take it to the next level and add a bit more interest. So I have layered different antique pages and made them semi-transparent, so that you can still journal on the back, but it's not just a tea-stained image, and it's not white either. So that's something that's a kit I've created for myself and then just put it in the shop for anyone else who wants to do that sort of thing. I have attached a really beautiful antique metal button there with a little cluster of lace, and that's the other side of the doily. Another piece of that, what did I say it was? Paper snippet roll, and there's some thread that's sort of been used there to add some texture, which I thought was really cool. That's an image from the Antique Butterfly kit, and I've used some of my Antique Music kit as well. And there's Vintage Ledger too, so that's an original piece of document. Beautiful for collaging and adding, you know, some interest. A book page tag with that's been backed, and a little vintage bell. It's sort of a bit mushed and I love it. Still makes a little tingly sound, which is super cute, but it's got that real nice grungy patina. That's one of those things that you hold on to and then you think, why am I holding on to it? It's better to use things like that, special little things like that in a journal. And here I've just added, I've used the book page, school book page on the back, but some antique music book, and this is a different antique music book, so you can sort of see the different colors, some embossed paper. I made a little pocket at the bottom with washi tape, Tim Holtz washi tape, and that's one of my ledger and lace tags with the antique pages printed double-sided, so you can see there's a little bit of interest on the back there, and one of the little butterflies on the front. I've just attached that with one of those little paper clips and some, such delicate antique lace. Just, so beautiful. And you can sort of see the binding maybe there. I didn't actually loop the strings underneath that one, so you can see I've had the string here, gone in that hole, come out through that hole, gone down into that hole and come out through that hole, and then tied them in the middle. Hopefully that makes more sense. One of my collaged laminated tags, which I do love, because even though it's plastic, I'm not fond of plastic. Even though as a kindergarten teacher I was the queen of laminating. Everything had to be laminated for durability, which I think if you're going to add life to something, it increases its purpose, so the plastic is worth it. But I just had fun doing this because you can see through it, so it's a way of adding another layer. That's just a torn piece of a doily, and that's one of my favorite pages from the Spring Gardeners kit. Another piece of original ephemera that I've just stuck in, so bits and pieces can be used to collage and can be written on the back. You can write on the back, it can be written on the back. Doesn't make sense. Anyway, some more of that snippet roll. This is a really nice pocket here, like a tuck spot. I didn't put anything in it because I am trying to leave some things empty, I guess, and I've just added another one of those linen covered vintage buttons, and there's some lace there that can definitely be used throughout the journal. Another beautiful snippet up the top there. This was a postcard in the Spring Gardeners kit, and I've turned it into a pocket by putting a hole up the top there. I have used some old tulle and created a little bow. I've stuck on some embossed paper, a little butterfly, and then I stuck it down as a pocket. It was going to just be a postcard slipped into somewhere, but I wanted it to be a pocket because this is one of those antique pages, and I really wanted to sort of showcase that, but I just found it, you know, needed something else, so I added extra because everything's just extra. Hopefully that's all still in shot, but this is a tea-stained luggage tag, and I do like to keep them blank because I just love the grunginess. Some more of that snippet. This is a beautiful handmade doily, and it's beautiful antique handmade doily, and I have used it. I've machine stitched it across the top, so it's like a little tuck spot, so using probably something lighter to tuck in, and the weight of it should actually hold that down so it's not going to just fall randomly out of the journal. And I've taken it over to the other side. I think something heavy like a tag might come out, so you just have to be mindful of that. I think when you're putting ephemera in a journal that it will, for me, I like it to stay. And I just love that image from the Antique Butterfly Kit. This is a little medallion from a crochet tablecloth, and I've just used that. It can be a tuck spot, but I've also used it like a tab on the side of the journal. That's the other side of that original document. I think because it is typed, it would be from 1950. And here, these are tuck spots there, but I've created an envelope. So I opened the envelope and I have stitched on a beautiful piece of wallpaper with some vintage lace to add some interest and as a little pocket, and I've just wrapped that around there like that. I've used some, I forgot what this is called, so we're just going to skip past that, and we're going on to this. I've created, this is out of that music paper, so backed just to make it a little bit more rigid. So a piece of music paper with a different piece of ephemera. I've used a butterfly at the bottom, and this I think it's a tag from the Ledger and Lace kit, but I've taken the top off and added some Tim Holtz washi tape down the side, but it sort of sits in there, so it sits on top of the butterfly but tucks under the little flap at the top. And I've just decorated one of those teardrop paper clips, so that goes on the top of there, and it also holds that tag in that little weird thing that I've made. Anyway, moving on. This is another part of that doily. I love hand tearing stuff. If it tears beautifully by hand, it's one of my favorite things. Some things you go to tear and it just goes everywhere, and it ends up on a journal cover like this. That's what happens to things that tear randomly. This one I've just used an image from one of my kits, and I've put a butterfly down the bottom over some of that beautiful tulle to create a layer. And some more of that snippet. That's another page from the Antique Pages kit. I've made that a little bit sort of, it does have writing, but I've hopefully made it transparent enough to be able to write over the top. Some of this really gorgeous antique lace there. Another printed tag with the double-sided, and I've just pinned on some of this really beautiful lace. It does look handmade, but I'm not 100% sure, but I really just love the pattern. of that, and that's in a little pocket there. That's from the Embroidery Kit as well. Here is a belly band, and I've made it difficult for myself to get this out. And the belly band was just made from that snippet, and I've hand stitched some lace on top because I made that choice after I'd stuck it down. But I sometimes I prefer hand stitching because it doesn't make a noise. And if you just want to listen to an Audible book and not be going over to the sewing machine and back again, hand stitching is the way to go. And I've done a little bit of hand stitching on here. So that's just using some of that music paper and doing a little feature at the top and the bottom, and just a tag there because there was enough sort of going on at the top, and that sort of just slips in there. It's got like a little skirt, which is a bit cute, a belly band and a skirt. That's one of my favorite pages, that sort of layered page. An original it's like a postcard, but I think it's talking about that particular flower, which I did learn how to say it in French, and I did have what the actual flower is, but it's completely left my mind. Anyway, it looks really pretty because it has a gold foil shimmer to it, so I've just tucked that in there. This is actually a tuck spot up here. I haven't put anything in it, but I did pin on a little bit of extra lace with one of those Tim Holtz things. Here I have a page. I've used vintage blank ledger, original ledger in this journal, and I've just used I think it's called a brad, it can be called an eyelet as well, to attach a few pretty things. So some beautiful handmade paper, a tea-stained doily, a stamped tea bag, and then a French language card which has the English on the back. So I've just pinned that on there. It can be taken off, but oh, look how delicious those layers are on the front and the back actually. Here, this is quite a heavy pocket, but I liked that look in the end. I did add this and the button at the end, so that's hand stitched on. That's also that background page. And here I've used a little grungy linen button with a cluster. I did sew that on before I put the backing on because I was this was a bit more planned, even though it's still a random piece of ephemera. You can write on the back there. This is a bit delicate though, because it's from 1818, I think. 18 or 1920. I'm not sure, but it's old. That's a little snippet, I think, from a book spine I had floating around on my desk, and some embossed paper, so I've just stuck that in there. Love the layers of that page as well. And at the back here, I have printed off a tag. I punched the hole in at the top and just put some of that beautiful old tulle in and added some alphabet and wrapped that around. I think that turned out to be pretty cool. I've done that with washi tape, but never thought to do it with actual printed ephemera. But I have added a few pieces of lace in a layer. I've done this before and hand stitched across the top, but this time I added one of those really cool big brads at the top. They are quite flat, especially if you've layered a few things, but to make them even flatter, I suggest getting a metal ruler and pushing down on it, and then it spreads the little tongs further apart and makes it almost completely flat, so it doesn't catch on things more than anything. So I just tucked that in there for some layering, and that is Dominique, full of gorgeousness with lots of wonky hearts on the cover. Actually, no, just one wonky heart. Probably the most important wonky heart, but anyway. Heart that was wonky, I should say. And yes, I'm going to end the video there because I've probably talked too much already anyway. So thank you for watching. Bye.